Today is Tuesday, February 17th, 2026, and the Huskies are back on track. This is Talkin Husky Hoops.
It is a UConn coronation. The Huskies make history. Back-to-back national champions.
I'm Mike Gizzi.
And I'm Will Jeong.
And welcome back to the 15th episode of Talkin Husky Hoops, where we talk all things UConn men's basketball, from game previews and breakdowns to everything involving Hurley and the men's team. Well, as always, how we feeling?
Feeling solid. It's been a crazy week of college basketball and a good week for the Huskies to get back in the win column. Number ones fell, transfers committed, and there's still plenty of Big East basketball to go. So I guess let's get right into last week, yeah?
Last Wednesday, the Huskies defeated the Butler Bulldogs in a road matchup at Hinkle Fieldhouse by a final score of 80-70. UConn was primarily led by the 24-point outing of Solo Ball, which continues his dominance versus Butler, scoring 73 points in his last three matchups against the Bulldogs. Ball made 6 threes, which is a season high for him, actually, and Braylon Mullins, the man who was named Mr. Basketball in the state of Indiana last year, dropped 15 points in a homecoming game, which is with approximately 200 family members in attendance.
Wow, that's awesome. Good to see his homecoming showing out for the hometown crowd, of course, Indiana being a very basketball-rich state, to say the least. Also, some big performers. Silas Demery scored 11, and Terrace Reed had 16, both notching a double-double. Terrace had 7 assists, which was a new career high for him. I believe the previous was 5 against Texas in December. And he also went 4 for 5 from the free throw line, and UConn went 7 for 9 in this game. That was a huge improvement from 5 and 12 in the last matchup against St. John's.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of St. John's, the Huskies struggled taking care of the ball in that matchup. They started a bit sloppy in the same manner, turning the ball over 7 times in the first half. But, Dan Hurley must have said something at halftime to really make them tighten up, because they only turned the ball over once in the second half. The game did feel close for a while, especially in the first half, where UConn trailed at one point headed into half with the score of 41-38. But the Huskies really didn't gain some ground until the closing moments of this game, inside of like 5 minutes, where they got a 12-point lead, which was the largest of the game, and would end up winning by 10.
Yes, so, and again, good to get back in the win column for the Huskies. This is a big bounce back, at least, after dropping their first game in Big East play. But this was a season sweep over Butler, so safe to say, at least, the Huskies being able to get this win was huge for them.
All right, as last episode, we previewed 2 games. We already went over the first one. Now let's go over the second one. Saturday, UConn defeated the Georgetown Hoyas in another close contest by a final score of 79-75. Just like against Butler, Solo Ball continued to dominate and led the way for UConn with 20 points. And of course, Silas Demery Jr.'s 15-point double-double, almost notching a triple-double with 9 assists on the night, was a big reason the Huskies remained in the lead throughout.
Yes, and in true Valentine's Day fashion, this game was a little too close. Just like UConn's last matchup against the Hoyas, which was 62-64, this again was another close one. In terms of UConn's performance from beyond the arc, they went 11 for 34, which is a little slightly below, I guess, what to expect. And from the line, they missed 7 free throws, but that was still above their average on the season, at least. This game, they went 72% from the line.
Yeah, 69.8% on the season, according to our last episode. Definitely still not great, but they have been improving.
Yes.
We stated in our last episode key players for Georgetown. That was KJ Lewis and Vince Iwuchukwu. Both had good performances, 24 points and 9 rebounds from Lewis, and 16 points from Iwuchukwu. Yet, we mentioned that his 14 rebounds were a big thing for Georgetown. UConn did limit that, as we said they needed to do. 7 rebounds this time, halved. So
yes.
Definitely great on that part.
Yeah, good thing to see on the defensive side. On the flip side, though, UConn centers were only able to grab 3 rebounds themselves during this contest, which I think is a little concerning, to say the least. Overall, though, the Huskies were still able to get a win, and that is yet another series sweep in Big East play for the Huskies against Georgetown.
Yeah, but I would say the big news from this game kind of came after. Questions in the press conference were asked about the UConn crowd, and both Ed Cooley and Dan Hurley gave comments and criticism about the attendance or lack thereof. Here you go.
Obviously, a very, very tough place to play. Honestly, I was surprised that there was empty seats up in the section. I mean, you got a national championship team, and this place should be sold out every every day. You know what I mean? Like, and I just was shocked. That actually shocked me. You got a top 10 team, a Saturday night game. This place should have been bouncing off the wall on a Saturday night with a team that's out there like that. That's just what I saw.
And there was just a lot of empty seats. I think the section behind our basket was empty. It should be a madhouse when we play here at the basketball capital of the world for our games. Like, we need our fans in the games on, like, from the tip when we're playing defense to get loud, and obviously when we score or hit a three or dunk the ball, it's pretty easy. But when we look at the environments that we play in, when we wear the UConn jersey, you know, Xavier's a madhouse when we go there. Creighton is a madhouse. When we play St. John's now in the Big East road game, that's not Store South no more. That environment that we played in was a serious, nasty environment, an intense environment. We were at a major disadvantage in terms of the atmosphere. I mean, I could go to Kansas and, you know, some of these different places that we play. But, yeah, I mean, I try to get the crowd. Fans can criticize me all you want. I got some fucking equity. You know, I've got 2 national championships here in the last 3 years, and we've given you the season that there's a lot of programs across the country that fans wish they had going. So, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore, though. You know, I asked the players to try to do it. You know, you don't come to watch a game. It's not a fucking social event. Right? Like, this is the basketball capital world. We need our fans to come to the game and be loud as shit from the start. It needs to be a madhouse.
I mean, yeah, they said it best. I was in attendance for that game, and it did looking at the Top's overflow student section on the UConn bench side was very empty. And on top of that, the students who were in attendance and crowd in attendance, they weren't always the most lively and most passionate when it came to the noise during this game. And what Hurley said there of him not maybe wanting to hype up the crowd as much anymore because, you know, he can only do so much is definitely disappointing, and UConn fans need to do a bit better when it comes to showing up. 2 national championships in the last 3 years, and 24-2 on the season.
Yeah.
You've got it. They need to show up. They need to show out and be loud. But you know what? A win's a win, like you stated.
Yes.
We got out of there, or UConn got out of there. They escaped, and it's on to the next one.
For sure. I personally was not able to be in attendance for this game. So, you know, a number of factors could come into play. You know, it was Valentine's Day, but, you know, a Saturday night classic Big East brawl, and UConn is a now top 5 team in the country. So really just need to see more out of the fans, I think, is a good way to put it.
Before we get into our next matchup, let's get into some news. Big week for the Huskies when it came to honors.
Yes.
Starting off, Terrace Reed Jr. is an 1,000-point scorer. Started off his career with his first 2 years at Michigan before transferring into UConn last season. Congrats to Terrace Reed Jr. on becoming an 1,000-point scorer. Great person, great basketball player, and he definitely deserves this.
For sure.
But there wasn't one 1,000-point scorer notch this week. Two. Solo Ball also reached 1,000 points. He's in his junior year as a Husky. He spent all 3 years here. He definitely has, you know, he's had his up and downs this season. Recently, he has picked it up, as we've seen in the last few games. But you know what? Just like the Terrace, congratulations, Solo Ball, on being an 1,000-point scorer in a Husky uniform.
For sure. But that was not his only accolade for the week. He was also named Big East Player of the Week after 2 dominant performances, which were both mentioned earlier in this episode. Awesome to see from Solo Ball getting the recognition as one of the star guards on UConn.
Yeah. But there's more.
Yes.
There is still more. What a week for UConn basketball. Alex Karaban becomes the all-time winningest Husky with 116 career wins, surpassing his former teammate Samson Johnson, who was at 115. Karaban has played in 136 games throughout his UConn career, averaging 12.4 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists, while also winning 2 national championships over his time in Stores. Congrats, Alex, and on such a major achievement. And you know what? UConn fans are going to be sad in a few weeks as his time is coming to a close in Stores. But gladly he did that and got another honor under his wing before he left.
Yeah, for sure. So let's take a quick trip nationally to see some more news. Princeton transfer Caden Pierce recently committed to Purdue over UConn, Duke, Gonzaga, and Louisville. I know UConn had Pierce targeted, but it's good to see him committing there. He's going to do great things in Indiana. Also taking a look at the AP poll, there was a lot of shakeups this week, most notably number 1 Arizona.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like Tuesday was a purge day in college basketball. I remember I was editing our last episode, and I look at ESPN, and I look at all the scores, and everyone's going down.
Yeah.
So, as he mentioned, Arizona, 2 matchups this week.
Yes.
2 losses this week. They dropped to 4, just above UConn at number 5. Other UConn opponents include Kansas, who actually defeated Arizona earlier this week, and they also lost.
Yes.
But they still climb to number 8 in the poll. Illinois falls back 2 spots to number 10. Florida jumps 2 spots, continuing after a win against number 25 or former 25 ranked Kentucky. On top of that, St. John's remains at 17. And that's really it for our opponents, besides BYU falling to number 23.
Yes, and then also Villanova, who the Huskies take on this weekend, got a couple votes as well for the AP poll.
Yeah. Let's move on to the Huskies' next matchup. UConn will stay in stores for a matchup this week, February 18th, where they get round 2 versus the Creighton Blue Jays. Currently 13-13 on the season, 7-8 in Big East play, and sitting 5th in the conference.
Yes, so UConn's last stint with Creighton was definitive. The Huskies had a pretty convincing win in Omaha over Creighton with a score of 85 to 58, which was then a quad 1 road win for the Huskies, but since then it has actually fallen down to quad 2. So Creighton has kind of gone cold in the past couple games. They've been 1-3 since losing to UConn, and now 4-8 in their last 12.
UConn was primarily led in that one by freshman Braylon Mullins, who scored 16 points while going 4 for 8 from beyond the arc, while both Demery Jr. and Karaban scored 15. The whole of UConn's offense was hot in that game, as they went 16 for 31 from 3 and 54% overall shooting.
Yeah. Maybe even more impressively, their defense was smothering. They were able to hold Creighton to 5 for 21 from shooting from beyond the arc and 41% overall. The Huskies made the leading scorer Josh Dix for Creighton a complete non-factor last meeting. He went for 0 points and 2 assists, not even being able to get a shot.
Remember that during halftime of this matchup, the Huskies will honor legendary center Emeka Okafor as they hang his number 50 in the rafters. Remember, UConn fans, there's been a lot of criticism over the last few days on social medias over the lack of appearance and noise in Gamble Pavilion.
Yes.
So show up, show out, but if you can't make it, tune in Wednesday, February 18th at 7 p.m. on TNT as the Huskies take on the Creighton Blue Jays at Gamble Pavilion. And with that, thank you for watching this episode of Talkin Husky Hoops. We'll be back later this week to break down this matchup versus Creighton and further preview the Huskies' road trip as they head to Pennsylvania to take on Villanova. But for now, I'm Mike Gizzi.
And I'm Will Jeong, UCTV Sports.
Go Huskies.